Oh, there is more both. Holy shit.
Read the damn story,
Okay.
Jillian.
Okay. May 13th, 1804. This is in journal form. A book of my own. A book that I bought with money that I worked hard for, that I earned. A book that I bought with half a dime that I fought for. They told us that we should only pack a few items because the rest will be provided for us. What are you supposed to bring on these sorts of things? A book. That's what. A book that wasn't handed to you, but a book that you fought for.
Yeah.
At least, that's what I think you should bring. That's what I'm bringing. Well, that book in this journal. It's not like you should take with you your mother's diamond necklace on the greatest expedition that anyone has ever set on. Or will set on, I guess. We haven't exactly started it quite yet. That's what tomorrow is for. Starting adventures. Starting expeditions. But you can't always say tomorrow because eventually life says today. At least I'm excited for my tomorrow. After all, I have always wanted to be more than just a soldier. Tomorrow, I get to be an explorer on some important expedition, accompanied by some of the greatest men in all of America.
Hey.
Tomorrow, I am joining Meriwether Lewis, William Clark, and 42 other men on the expedition of a lifetime. Tomorrow, we are starting our trip through the Northwest. May 15th, 1804. Yesterday was my tomorrow, if that is understandable. Yesterday we left the town of St. Louis, Missouri, and started on our trip. I meant to write again yesterday, but the time to do so was consumed by work and preparation. William Clark called us the Corps of Volunteers for Northwest Discovery when we were first recruited, so I guess I could say that Clark and us Corps men joined Lewis in St. Charles, Missouri yesterday. Being chosen by William Clark to join him on the expedition is an honor, and will fill any man with pride. But just being in Meriwether Lewis's presence is unfathomable. We are the same age, but he has achieved so much in his life that I have it in mind. Lewis is strong in all forms. He is kind, but can take charge. He is fair and knows exactly the decision to choose to benefit everyone. Lewis is, well, he wears sensible shoes. And it seems that his favorite color is red because for the past 2 days, he has been wearing the same red handkerchief in his breast pocket. Maybe it is the only one that he has. Or maybe... No, never mind. Anyhow, for now we are traveling upstream in the Missouri River in a Neil boat and 2 smaller boats. Reports from some of the more experienced sailors, namely the boat crew that was enlisted by Clark, informed us Corps men that we sailed about 15 miles yesterday. If all goes well, then we should cross about the same distance today as well. Having lived in Missouri for the entirety of my life, I have not the familiarity of being upon a ship, as some crossed out, many of the others. I enjoy the swiftness of the travel, but not the sickness the travel brings. I believe one of the members of the boat crew called it seasickness. But the entirety of the upper part of my body was hanging off the side of the ship, and I was too focused on not falling overboard to completely comprehend his words. That's where I am right now, sitting and leaning against the railing of the Neil boat's side, striving not to feed the fish my lunch like a mother bird might her chicks. I feel like a sozzled young lass scribbling in her diary about the charming lad she wishes to court. One of the provisions that was handed out once we were assigned to a hammock was a journal. Jefferson wants us to record any and all scientific observations that might reveal themselves on our expedition in the journals. Some of the men have already filled out half a page. Others haven't even touched theirs other than to move it from the top of their hammock to underneath it. I am one of the latter. I have never been one for recording data, only recording my day. It helps. I started doing it once I became a soldier, and it really does help me cope with all the death. I guess if I can write about it, relive it, whatever had happened couldn't have been all that bad. Could it? May 17th, 1804. It seems the 6 stains on my shirt that appear every day in my perspiry, yes. Unruly black hair has gained the pity of one of the more experienced sailors. His name is Thomas. Thomas Smith. Thomas was kind enough to give me with the most important advice that I have ever received. Look ahead. Keep looking forward. Stare into the horizon and don't look back. He didn't say much else. Then again, I haven't seen him say much to anyone. The thing about that statement is, I can't tell what he meant by it. Because on one hand, I have stared into the horizon. I've seen what I can become, and I don't look back into the past. Because the past doesn't define who you are. The future does. This is my future.
I just watched somebody driving
Being an explorer is my future. See how far we've fallen. On the other hand, though, staring into the horizon helps overcome the seasickness. Did Thomas tell me not to give up? Or was this just a subtle way of telling me to get over myself and start pulling my weight around here? Either way, I don't mind. The only other thing that Thomas informed me of was which barrels in the storage room contained ginger. Ginger. Who would have thought that ginger helps with seasickness? Sailors, I suppose. I've never really been around sailors, but I can safely say that they are interesting people. Most are rambunctious, but others are soft-spoken. The main thing they have in common is they stick to their own kind. Maybe if I can obtain the friendship of Thomas, I can obtain the friendship of some other sailors as well. One thing I'm certain of is that the members of the boat crew have a lot more knowledge than they let on. May 20th, 1804. Lewis. Meriwether Lewis. Meriwether Lewis and his dog of a Newfoundland breed, Seaman. Those are who visited me today. As I am writing this by the light of the burning candle, the memory of their visit reenacts itself in my mind. I will attempt to portray this moment as best I can through writing. I was finishing one of my daily tasks, taking inventory of the weapons, when Lewis walked down the stairs and into the storage room I was in. Trailing behind him, like always, was Seaman.
Yeah, me too, honestly.
My breath caught in my throat, but I was able to salvage my dignity by scraping as much professionalism as I could muster. I nodded my head at him with a quiet, "Sir," and turned back to the barrels of gunpowder, attempting to focus my attention on counting them. I could see Lewis nod politely back at me, but he did not say a word. I was able to mark down several more tallies on my record sheet before Lewis finally spoke to me. All accounted for, his face showed no obvious expression, but his tone was soft. "Yes, sir," I responded after clearing my throat. "As far as I have counted, at least." Once again, Lewis simply nodded his head in acknowledgement. I waited a few seconds before beginning my counting again. Several minutes passed before Lewis spoke. "Your name," he turned to face me this time. "What is it?" "Henry, sir. Henry Astor." And you do this task every morning, Henry?" "Yes, sir. First thing I do after I dress." He quirked one of his eyebrows up at this statement of mine, but the movement only lasted a second. "Where do you put the record sheet once you have finished?" he questioned, not accusingly, but curiously. "The map room, sir," I answered hesitantly, "where I was instructed." Lewis once again nodded silently. A few silent moments later, he headed back towards the staircase, but before his foot set on the second step, he looked back at me. As Meriwether Lewis stared at me with his hazel eyes, he said something that I never thought he would. "From now on, put the finished record sheet in my cabin." Before I had the final "yes, sir" come out of my mouth for the day, he was already gone, Seaman trailing after him. Brief as it was, I will never forget our conversation. May 30th, 1804.
How many pages is it?
We're getting to the good parts now.
Story time.
Lewis crossed out. So Thomas never had meant these wise words of his out of kindness. He sat beside me today while I was eating my midday meal. Conversing with each other was a vague, simple experience that was filled with nothing of importance. Mostly, though, it was filled with nothing at all. As I have indirectly told earlier, Thomas doesn't seem to speak much. I hope I will soon be able to address him as a friend of mine, for he seems very kind and knowledgeable. Lewis crossed out. William Clark visibly appears to be tremendously excited about our expedition so far. He is always seen with a smile upon his face. Merriweather crossed out. It has been 10 days since I have started placing the finished record sheets in Lewis's cabin. I've noticed I have developed a routine since then, a routine that I am not proud of. I found myself writing reports neater and triple checking my work, something that I used to not do. Of course, my work was readable and double checked, but now, I don't know. My subconscious self has been doing these things for the past 10 days, and my conscious self has only noticed them about 10 minutes ago. I wouldn't have even noticed these habits if not for the events that happened this morning. After I finally finished my report every morning, I trudged along the most terrifying part of this expedition so far. The entire way to Lewis's cabin is filled with thoughts of horror and disappointment. What if I counted wrong? What if he can't read my handwriting? What if I'm doing this wrong? Why did he want me to put the finished report in his cabin? Does he not trust me? Does he not trust someone else? Is there someone on the ship who is out to ruin the expedition? What if I get blamed and get sent back or executed? The questions are endless. The fear is overwhelming. These thoughts take up so much of my mind that I only realize I'm at Lewis's cabin door when I'm about to run into it. By this point, every morning my worries have invaded my mind, and I find myself not being able to go in. I stand there, my fist hovering above the dark wood, for what seems like days. But after only a few seconds of being outside the cabin, my heart will slow and I'm able to push back the ranks of uncertainty that are attacking my mind. I knock. 3 sharp raps on the door. Each morning the only answer is the silence of the empty room. I hesitantly creak the door open just a sliver to make sure my assumptions of Lewis being at breakfast are correct. Every morning, I set the report on the nightstand by his cot, and every morning I run out of there like a puppy with his tail between his legs. Every morning for the past 10 days this process repeated, but this morning the cycle broke. And as much as I hated the process of the cycle, I really wish I had not ruined it. I had made my way to Lewis's cabin as usual, distressed and distracted. I knocked, really I did, but no answer. There has never been an answer when I have knocked on the door in the mornings, so by this point I had assumed he was at breakfast. I hesitantly cracked the door open to see inside. There he was, Lewis Merriweather. He was still sleeping in his cot. What was I thinking? Of course he was still sleeping. The sun wasn't even up yet, so why should he have been? This is what I get for waking up earlier than I have been, I guess. My feet were glued to the floor and the air from my lungs caught in my throat. Jesus Christ. Lewis's dog, a Newfoundland breed, Seaman, had himself draped across the foot of the bed. But to my luck, he sprang to attention upon seeing me, like a soldier being addressed by his commanding officer. After a short moment of silence, Seaman quietly crawled down from the cot and made his way over to me. As the dog was sniffing my empty hand, I intently watched the mound of blankets to see if the large animal had woken Lewis. Miraculously, he merely turned over. By this time, Lewis was facing me, but asleep all the same. Seaman flopping himself down upon the floor jostled the memory of the task that I was set to do. As I took the 3 strides to Lewis's nightstand, I internally thanked the Lord for my stealth training. I had believed for a second that the report wrestling in my hand as I sat it next to Lewis's signature red handkerchief was the loudest sound in the world. Until, that is, I had turned and fallen over Seaman. Cursed the Lord for my lack of balance. Seaman's sharp yelp, mixed with the thundering crash sound that I made when I had hit the floor, resonated throughout the room. In the darkness, glowing hazel eyes met my devastated green ones. Our gazes held for a long moment. Lewis's piercing and cold, while mine, well, I don't know. Mine probably resembled those of a young boy getting caught stealing an apple from a shopkeeper. The air was stiff. The knife in Lewis's hand glistened in the rapidly fading moonlight. Surely it had just been sharpened. His glare, on the other hand, quickly softened with recognition. Lewis darted from his cot and offered his helping hand. From my spot on the floor, I simply gawked at it, still frozen in my spot. Silently, Lewis shook his head and grabbed my arm anyway. After I was steady on my feet, Lewis released my wrist and ran both his hands through his tangled, honey-colored hair. Do you have a problem?
No. Breathe.
Are you all right? He questions. His voice barely above a whisper as our eyes held contact. I could do nothing more than rapidly nod my head and take a step backwards. Lewis's hand shot out in case I had fallen again, but my, thankfully, still standing stance caused him to hesitantly retract. Lewis shuffled his feet as he recomposed himself, and he looked over at the monstrous report on his nightstand with furrowed brows. Once again, our eyes caught. Then you are dismissed, Henry. Go have some breakfast, if it is ready. Close the door on your way out. Yes, sir. I mangled the words as they came out of my mouth, but at least I responded instead of just standing there like a schoolgirl. I turned on my heel and quickly stumbled my way out of the stuffy cabin, my hand shaking as I grabbed the doorknob. I yanked it closed, and as soon as I was alone again, I felt my face, and just as I had suspected, it was hot to the touch. It is night now. We have not made eye contact since then. August 20th. It has been near 3 months since I have written in this journal instead of my provided one. I regret not being able to write about my day, as I still figure it is important to do so. But there has been no time, nor has there been anything important to write about. Today, though, something tragic has happened, and I believe it needs to be written about. Sergeant Charles Floyd has unfortunately passed. He had been complaining about stomach pains for almost all of yesterday, but we thought not of it until he dropped to the ground today. Dead. Just like that. I'd only spoken to Sergeant Floyd a few times, but he'd always seemed healthy. Of course, there's not much we could do, but it still feels like we could have done more. He is the first that the Lord has taken from us on this journey, and it would be nothing short of a miracle if he shall be the last. September 25th. We had an extremely tense meeting with some natives today. It is difficult, to say the least, to communicate with the natives, even with our translator, words still likely have to be passed through 3 different languages. It is difficult to explain everything in writing, but I will still attempt it. Today, they had mistaken us for merchants, and they were not happy about us potentially being so. They believed that we were selling weapons to rival tribes of the Missouri River. Understandably, this miscommunication had made them hostile towards us. The real conflict started when one of the young natives, who I believe was a chief, but I could be wrong about that, tried to confront us. He feigned drunkenness and stumbled into Clark. Of course, Clark had the natural instinct of a soldier in distress, and he drew his sword. Upon seeing one of our leaders in a potentially dangerous situation, all of us soldiers raised our rifles to defend him. With our weapons pointed at them, they drew their bows. Tension suffocated the land like a thick fog. Many angry threats seemed to have been exchanged through the interpreters. It doesn't show page numbers. None of which I was able to understand or remember. At least we were able to explain our situation to them, because sometime along the way, the elder chief Black Buffalo called for peace between the two sides. It has been agreed on that we are to stay and rest at their village for the next 3 days, which is something I'm still unsure about. I cannot wait for the 3 days to be up. Then we will be able to continue our expedition. I think I will stay beside Thomas for the time being. I know we will watch each other's backs. October 2nd. This was the first time in several months that Meriwether Lewis and I have exchanged more than an awkward, simple conversation or him giving me orders. We've been traveling hard for the past few days to make up for the time we had spent at the village. It seems that the entire group is on edge, and the tension between us is thick. After we experience the hostility of the people, all our eyes are on the lookout for more tribes of natives. We have stopped for the night, and, as usual, a few soldiers have been sent out to scout the area. Tonight it was my turn to be a scout. I took my rifle, as well as my hunting knife strapped to my side, and I set south. At the time, it had seemed that luck was on my side for the moment. No natives, no bears, nothing that appeared harmful. And then I saw it. A tall, full apple tree, and in the moonlight those apples glistened like the water. I couldn't help but be entranced at their beauty, as I was reminded of my childhood. I remember being a small lad and the baker giving me an apple pie as payment for picking the apples at the top of his tree. The apples that he couldn't reach, but I sure could climb to. I'd always loved climbing trees. I don't believe I had an apple since I was a child. Of course, with the tree so full of these stunning creations, I had to have one. I swung the rifle over my shoulder. Apples? What's apples? And reached out to grasp the fruit. His skin just barely brushed my fingertips when I heard a twig snap sharply. I hastily crouched down and aimed my rifle at the spot the noise came from, but there was no need for it. Meriwether Lewis stepped out of the thick bushes. Not a native, not a bear, but the man I haven't truly spoken to for months. Lewis raised his hands in surrender, and at the same time I lowered my rifle. Not knowing anything better to do, I merely apologized to him, stood at attention. At ease, Lewis instructed softly. There is no need for apologies. You simply followed protocol. I relaxed my stance, but took no other moves. Lewis studied the apple tree behind me, his brows furrowed in an unreadable expression. Were you going to pick one of these apples? His tone was sharper this time as his stare leaped back and forth between me and the tree.
Yes, sir.
I responded hesitantly. Well, then it is a good thing that I stopped you when I did. One of Lewis's brows quirked up on his face as he stated this. Because if you had eaten that apple, then you would have died. I do not need another one of my soldiers dying on this expedition. Died, sir? I stuttered out, taking several steps away from the once enchanting, now repulsing apple tree. Yes, Henry, you would have died. Lewis clasped his hunting knife, and with a swift flick of his wrist, it was embedded in the knotted bark of the trunk of the tree. Why do you think this tree is completely full of apples when there are so many animals around? This tree is sick, and eating one of its fruits will make you sick. The animals know better, and you should have too. Lewis's words stung me more than I thought they would. More than they would have if anyone else had said them. They hurt because they were right. It would only make sense for this tree to be picked clean, unless the tree was sick. I should have known this. I should not have let my desire get the best of me. Lewis sauntered over to the apple tree and yanked his knife out from its bark. Sighing once, he rubbed his face with one hand and made his way over to where I was stood. This time, his steps less prideful. Lewis stopped in front of me and put his hand on my shoulder. I did not mean for my words to be so sharp, Henry. Lewis reassured me. I was just worried about what could have happened.
Am I Henry?
You
Yes.
are now.
You are now.
Solid.
It is hard to know and recognize these things unless you've experienced them before. Not daring to meet his eyes, I nodded my head once, took a step backwards out of his grasp. Lewis's arm gracefully fell back to his side. And have you, sir, experienced something like this before? A rare smile rested itself upon Lewis's face. Anika, your Lewis smile.
Oh.
I'll tell you on the way back to camp. We've been gone quite a while, you know. The two of us fell to step beside one another as we traveled back north. For one brief moment, I looked behind me as that extravagant apple tree that could have killed me with one bite. I miss apples,
I miss apples.
but they're not worth dying for.
No, they're not.
November 11th.
It's almost my birthday.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's Mavis's birthday.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Mavis. Winter is approaching far too quickly. Because of this, we had stopped our travels and have built a mighty fort. Fort Mandan. We have named it so in honor of the Mandan and I can't speak. Of the Mandan tribe, who are graciously letting us build upon their lands. I like them. They are kind. A Frenchman had purchased 2 squaws from the Rock Mountains. One of them was the wife of our interpreter. I can't say his name, it's too French for me.
The wife
Chardonnay?
of
Yeah,
our
Toussaint
interpreter.
Charbonnet. Yeah, her name is Sacagawea, and she is currently with child. I'm not sure what Lewis and Clark's plans are for her, but I don't think they know either. April 7th, 1805. After a long winter, we finally left Fort Mandan today. There wasn't much to do once everything was secure. Sacagawea thought otherwise. She spent most of the winter searching for wild artichokes. Surprisingly, She and her sharp stick that she used proved quite successful. She collected quite the bounty of the plant. Did you eat too many wild artichokes, Charbonnet? God damn you. June 2nd, 1805. For the majority of our trip, we have relied on the advice of the natives and some white traders. White traders. For information on the fastest and safest way to the Pacific. And for the majority of our trip, the information that we have gathered has been correct and has set us on the right path. Sometimes, though, things are left out. Like today, Lewis, Clark, and us corps men were, and still are, unprepared for the fork in the river that we have been following, the Missouri River. The native people told us that only one prong of the fork is the true Missouri River, and that we would know it by its majestic waterfalls upriver. Of course, that information is useful because now we know what to look for. But we still have the dilemma of figuring out which path to take. Lewis and Clark called for a vote. Everyone, except for 2 people, voted for the right prong. Those 2 people, of course, were Lewis and Clark. Wanting to be fair, they have decided to send 2 parties, one up each prong. I don't think that's fair. To scout ahead and report back. I was not selected to be part of one of the parties, so I'm not sure what will end up happening. But I am sure of one thing. No matter what happens, us men will follow Lewis and Clark wherever they wish to go.
Yeah, you're right.
June 13th. When the scouts had come back, we had taken another vote. Same results. Lewis, in all his stubborn glory, decided that he was to scout ahead to prove that he was right. When Lewis returned to camp, he was absolutely overjoyed and told his men about the waterfalls. He had described them as one of the most magnificent things a man will ever see. We were all excited to get moving again, but once we started, our motivation quickly subsided. The terrain is cactus strong, and I believe that portage around the falls is going to be far more difficult than that makes sense, than we had estimated. I talked to Thomas about this, and as it turns out, I'm not the only one with these thoughts. August 8th. Lewis, Clark, and us men believe that the only hope we have of crossing the mountains before winter is finding the Shoshone people and buying horses from them. As fate has it, Sacagawea has lived among the Shoshone people when she was a child. Oh, exclamation mark, my bad. So far, she's been able to provide valuable clues on finding the Shoshone village. Henry.
Oh, you're right.
I hope that when we find the village, we might be able to stay and rest a couple days, for I have not been feeling so well lately. I seem to be unfocused and terribly dizzy. My hunger is dying as well, which only makes the vertigo feel worse. I have tried to act as normal as I can, but Thomas has noticed. Thomas always notices when something is wrong with me. He's a good friend like that. August 17th. We have made contact with the Shoshone people and now at their village. As it turns out, the chief is Sacagawea's brother. It was nice to see them reunite. Fortunately for me, we will be staring. Sorry, I got a notification saying I'm ovulating. Fortunately for me, we will stay at the Shoshone village for a few days. I did not catch exactly how many. My illness will be getting worse every day. Tom has asked me to tell Lewis or Clark how I'm feeling, but I do not wish to burden either of them with this. And if there is even the slightest chance that they might not let me continue the expedition with them, I will not take it. I started this expedition to St. Louis and I intend on finishing it at the Pacific Ocean. August 19th. How could I have been so careless? Why did God have to make me such a clumsy fool? I was fine. I had been well this entire trip until a few weeks ago, so why? Why did it have to be now? I was only getting up from around the fire, nothing more. What did I do to make me collapse? I hadn't even realized I had until I had awoken in a Shoshone tent with the healer, Thomas, Lewis, and Clark by my side. When he had noticed I was awake, Thomas looked so guilty, as he should have been. Thomas here has informed us that you've been feeling sick for the past few weeks, Lewis had said accusingly, his hazel eyes peering into mine as he hovered over me. I told Lewis that I was going to tell him if it got really bad, but apparently that wasn't the correct thing to say. If it got really bad, how bad is really bad to you, Henry? Because collapsing into unconsciousness and almost setting yourself on fire is really bad to me. At least, that's what I think he said. I was still a little out of it. What am I saying? I am still a little out of it. Then Lewis did the one thing I prayed not to happen. He forbade me from continuing the expedition to the Pacific Ocean with them. No matter how much I begged and pleaded, no matter how many times I told him how important finishing the expedition is to me, he wouldn't budge. Even worse, he said he is doing it out of worry, and that he cares about me.
Oh, God.
He doesn't want me to get worse. If Lewis had truly cared about me, he would respect my wishes and take me to the Pacific. I don't have anything else in this life. That's not fair. That wasn't true. I do have something else. I have Lewis. And I have Thomas. But they're both leaving me. They're going to do something that I have dreamed of for over a year now, and I can't go with them. Everybody else has left me. And now here I am, 31 years of age and alone once again.
Oh, he's old.
Well, I told you they're the same age. The Shoshone healer said that this will be the last time I am allowed to write in my journal until I am well again. I'm not even allowed to read my book. My book that I had bought with money that I worked hard for, that I earned. My book that I had bought with half a dime. A half dime that I had fought for. I'm allowed neither of the only things that I truly wanted to bring with me on this journey, nor am I allowed to continue on the journey. March 22nd, 1806. I have for the most part recovered from my illness. I've not heard from or of the members of the expedition since they departed. The Shoshone healers have allowed me to walk around a few times a day, but they wish for me to be bedridden the rest of the time. At least they have given me back my journal and my book. As much as I offer to help, nobody will let me. March 31st. I purposely skipped over my birthday because I didn't want it to be part of this. No matter how many times I tell the Shoshone people I am better, they still will not let me help. Sometimes I play games with the children. Some of their games are confusing to me, but I am able to pick them up fairly quickly. My father never allowed me to play games with the other children when I was growing up. I suppose that is why I climb trees so often. It was something I could do by myself, but it was still fun. Some of the children have challenged me to climb different heights when I'm taking a walk, and always I happily oblige. It makes me feel like a young lad again, one that gets to play with others. Even if it does hurt a little bit, I guess I'm not still fully recovered.
What's that? I said I smelled juniper.
Seeing their smiling faces is worth it.
Like,
April
yeah,
4th.
Like there's no way that I'd be walking up those stairs. I'm like,
Why not?
because you walk like a pigeon. Sorry, excuse us.
You're good.
We're just doing touristy shit. You're good.
Us too.
There we go.
Sit and relax and enjoy
Heck
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at everybody's amazing flowers and yards and stuff. Look at that. That is in a cute house too. It's just like, okay, I'm taking a picture of somebody's house.
Finally, the day has arrived. The Lord has answered my prayers.
All right.
William Clark and the corps
Get
men
it?
arrived back at the Shoshone village like they promised. I was taking a walk around the village when they were led into camp by one of the patrolling natives. Well, Clark and half the corps men were led into the camp by one of the patrolling natives. Fear settled deep into my chest when I didn't see anyone else walk in, but luckily, Thomas was one of the men that did. Thomas must have seen the worry on my face when we locked eyes, for he quickly explained that the group decided to split at the Lola Pass and rendezvous at the spot where the Missouri and the Yellowstone collided. The rest of the corps men conversed with the Shoshone people. Clark and Thomas described to me the experiences of the rest of the journey. Hearing about Fort Clatsop in the Pacific Ocean made all the feelings of longing to finish the adventure alongside them flood back into me. That was until Clark let slip the name of the land that the fort was built in. The name that Meriwether Lewis decided on. Lewis called the land Astoria. That's the end.
Oh, what's that?
I chose not to add another chapter. A special chapter.
What's the special chapter?
Special chapter. A special chapter.
What do you mean by that?
Wow. A sexy chapter.
That's exactly, yeah.
Is that? Oh, okay.
I chose not to add it, but I could have.
Why?